Hi everyone, it's a new year. We're like more than halfway through January. I've been doing good. I have had some technical obstacles, but other than that, everything is like happening at once for me right now. I've been in the mood to read, I've been in the mood to watch things, I'm always listening to music. My interests are all peaking right now. I haven't been watching that much YouTube, which is very rare for me, especially in January, because I love watching people's like favorite books that they read the previous year and favorite movies that they watched and all the like ranking videos and overview videos of the end of the year, which I do plan on doing myself. But like I just said, technical obstacles, so they will be coming, but it may be February when those come, so hopefully that's okay. Again, it's mostly just me like putting that own pressure on myself. But I would like to do like an overview of my reading year for 2020, and then my favorite books, so that I can like talk about those sort of separately, and then like maybe probably like my favorite things that I watched in 2020. I'm still kind of like deciding what to do with that exactly, because I don't know if I should include like things that I rewatched or just first time watches, and then I know anything that I watched on the Criterion channel I'll be talking about in the Criterion channel year 2 videos that I'll get to, later this year. I hopefully will start working on those earlier, instead of like having them being uploaded in July, because I was like still working on them. Anyway, this is my goals for 2021. I don't really have that many movie goals, so I'll just mention those briefly, and then most of this is going to be reading goals. So in terms of movies, I just have I just want to be like consistent as much as I can with watching things. I know that I'm like very much a mood reader and mood watcher, so if I don't feel like watching something, I'm not going to like force myself to. But kind of stay on top of like different ideas I have for videos and watch movies pertaining to those. Be on top of watching things on the Criterion channel, since it's a service that I have and that I'm the main user of, instead of something that my dad pays for that the whole family uses. And then I do have a sort of separate watch list. It's just in a private list right now on Letterboxd. I could make it public. What did I just say? It's private. I could make it public if you wanted to see what was in it. It's just like one of those lists that's for me, so I thought like why, I don't know, I just kept it on private basically. But it's a sort of separate watch list of movies that were released from 1995 onwards, because I would like to do that video that's like my favorite films from every year I've been alive. But when I made my preliminary list of titles that would be my favorite from each year, the last like 6 years or so just were terrible because I don't watch as many recent films. And so the only options I had were like the one film I saw from that year, or like I had to choose between like 3 films that I just thought were okay. Or that like I want the favorites to be actual favorites of mine and not just like, well, I guess here's a movie that I get would be the best. Like, I don't want to feel like lukewarm and mediocre about it. I want to feel like this actually is a favorite film or something like that. So yeah, I have a sort of watch list of titles that I keep calling it a watch list, but it's just a list on Letterboxd that I'm thinking of as a watch list. And it only has movies that I think would actually be like favorites. Not something that I'm like, well, I guess I should watch that just to see. There's only movies that are like true contenders to me. I could put it on public if you're interested in seeing it. I don't know. I guess I should, just for fun. And I think that was everything in terms of movies. I don't really have anything right now. We could get later into the year and I could come up with an idea that I feel more strongly about, but right now I'm just kind of like, let's watch movies. And then the reading goals that I have for this year, I usually have like 2 main goals or sort of categories of goals. So I have like a number goal and then specific titles that I would like to get to. So for this year, I have my notebook here, by the way, so that's what I'm looking at. So in terms of a number goal, I would like to read 52 books this year, which I don't think I've ever done before. I think the most number of books that I have read in a year, or at least a calendar year, was 36, or like really close to 36. So technically 36 I'm thinking of as a more like strict goal, because overall I'm not very strict on myself with goals, especially reading goals, because, well, overall you just don't know how the year is going to end up happening. You don't know what it's going to look like in January. You have no idea what September, even April, is going to hold. We learned that last year. And so, and I'm so much of a mood reader that I never want to be like too strict on myself and like force myself to read, you know? So, if I were to give myself a more stricter goal in terms of numbers, 36 is how many books I would like to at least get to this year. And then 52 is kind of a looser goal, but that's still what I ended up making my Goodreads goal. That way I can see how like on track I am in terms of 52 books. And then for more specific goals, I have some series goals and then a sort of long list and short list of books that I would for sure like to get to this year. And so in terms of series, I have like 4 series to talk about, but ultimately with all of them, I just want to be more consistent and just continue reading in all of the series or possibly finish them. So the first series that I'll mention are the Grisha books, GRISHAVERSE. I think everything is under the GRISHAVERSE, but first we have the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which is Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising, right? Yes, and then the Six of Crows duology, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, all by Leigh Bardugo, and these are being, or have been, adapted into a Netflix series coming in April called Shadow and Bone. So I would like to read these before the series hits Netflix. I have started Shadow and Bone, the first book, and I just started it like last night, okay? So I'd specifically like to get to these before the Netflix show comes out. What am I doing with my hand? In April. So that gives me another 2.5 months to 3.5 months, depending on when in April the series will be released. Released? Okay, because it'll be the entire first season. So, yes. And that's a fantasy series. That is like my priority right now, because I would love to be like a part of just like everything. Like I love it when something premieres and like everyone starts talking about it, you know? Especially when it's something like a TV show that you can easily watch, as opposed to like, okay, a book has been released, but that's going to take people much longer usually. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it's a fantasy series. I'm not going to get into what everything is about anyway, because I would be here the rest of the night, basically. So then, let's see, goodness gracious, I would like to finish The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater, which has 4 books. I'm on the second. Really, just the number of times I've said that I am going to finish the Dream Thieves, the second book, is just way too many times in a video, so I'm not saying it again here, but I would like to finish the series this year, especially because I loved the first book, the Raven Boys, and it just seems like I could easily get through it. It's just unfortunate. Really the only reason why I haven't finished it is because I know that once I come back to reading the Dream Thieves, I'll just want to finish the entire series, read one book right after the other. And I started the Dream Thieves before my 2019 reading slump, and just haven't come back to it. It's January 2021, and I'm like, yeah, that reading slump from 2019 that I didn't read. I did not pick up a single book physically in 2019. I read 6 audiobooks. And like 4 of them were audiobooks, 2 of them were like comic volumes. That's what I read in 2019. Yeah, so then finished The Raven Cycle, which I know I'm not going to get to any of those books until I finish, until I read the Grisha books. Which also, by the way, there's like another duology that is a part of the GRISHAVERSE, I don't know what it's called, but I know the first one is called King of Scars, and then the second one comes out in March this year, I think. But those ones are not part of the adaptation of the GRISHAVERSE, I'm pretty sure. So that's why those 5 are the only ones that I have right now and are top priority. And then the other 2 series that I'm in the middle of that are both quite long, that I would just want to continue with, are the Vampire Chronicles. Here I have the first book, Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. I've been listening to this series on audiobook, so I don't actually have like most of the books, but I do have Interview, which is so shiny. And I'm on the 4th book, which is The Tale of the Body Thief. Thieves? Just one thief? I haven't actually started it yet, but I'm on the 4th book. So I think there's like 14 books or something, something crazy like that. It's a lot of books. And there's also just so many other series that I want to read, which I can't even get into right now because it's not part of my goals. But there are just like more adaptations happening. And the Vampire Chronicles is also in the works of being adapted. I think it's very like in development scenario, you know, that's where it is in terms of production wise. But obviously I want to read all of those books before the adaptation of that comes out, which I'm very curious. That's a whole other video, but like very curious on how that is going to work with all the characters and the back and forth and like, yeah, that's another video. Okay. And then the Shadowhunter Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, which make up this entire bookshelf pretty much, except for the bright green Twin Peaks books. And I just want to continue with the series. I don't really have like a specific goal in terms of maybe like a number of books I want to end up reading or like which book I would like to end up getting to. Right now it's just continue, try to be consistent. So yeah, just going over those again. Read the GRISHAVERSE books, finish the Raven Cycle, and continue with the Vampire and Shadowhunter Chronicles series. And then I have the specific books that are like standalones that I would like to get to this year. I have a long list and a short list because I figure I always do this thing, well, this thing being writing down specific books that I want to get to within the year. I always end up starting with just a few, and then I overthink it and end up writing like 20 books down, and it's like, but now you've just made up like most of your reading year. If you only read like 30 or 36 books in a year, and you write down 20 books that you for sure want to get to, that's not leaving a lot of room for like actual mood reading and like new releases and newer books that you discover and buy. So, yeah, I tried to keep it at least a little concise by having 5 that were more like I'm more serious about, and then technically I added another one, so then 6 other ones that are part of like the long list, so to speak. So I'll start with the 5 that I'm more serious about, that I would very much like. I'm getting to these this year, okay? These books in my hand. So first we have Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. Sorry, also my nail polish is super chipped, but that's okay. No one's here for my nail polish. I love this cover, by the way. This is my favorite book cover that I have. I am just like a sucker for watercolors. I love them. And this is a book that I started and then ended up getting distracted by either schoolwork or other books that I was reading. I put it down and never came back to it. So I would like to officially start it over, obviously, because I only read like the first chapter or so, and then read it completely, which is also what happened with the next 2 books on this list. Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. I got much further into this. I think I still have the bookmark on chapter 8. Oh my god. Chapter 8 on page 66. But I remember I did have to put this down again, probably because I had like a project that I needed to focus on, or maybe I was just reading way too many books at once, because sometimes that does happen when I get overly excited and just end up starting a bunch of books. But I also remember being kind of confused because there were 2 characters named Catherine, and I couldn't tell them apart. I'm pretty sure, oh my god, if that's wrong, please tell me. I'm pretty sure there's two Catherines, just like an abundance of Catherines that I couldn't differentiate. And then I put it down, and then I was like, well, I'm probably gonna have to start it over, so then I just ended up setting it aside to come back to some other time. And then this is another one that I only read, like, maybe is there an introduction? I feel like there's an introduction, but I don't think this is gonna show one. No introduction. So I read the first chapter of it, and that is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. Yeah, read the first chapter, got distracted by other stuff, put it down, haven't come back to it, but this is the year, okay? This is the year. And also, I mean, these first three are classics. So, oh my god, I do have Madame Bovary. I was gonna say, these three are classics, and a lot of classics have at least one adaptation. Specifically, though, I do own an adaptation of Madame Bovary that I have not watched yet, because I haven't read the book. And then I also have Tess on the Criterion Collection that I got when it came out. That was like 7 years ago. That was like 7 years ago, wasn't it? Well, I have the book. I've had the book for quite a while. It's time to get to it so that I can, experience the book and then also watch the adaptation. You'll see that as much as I am interested in reading the books as they are, but I love adaptations as well, so adaptations are also just like another incentive to finally read a book, and especially because I own the movies, it's just like, why I own the movies and the books, why haven't I read them and then watched them, So, I don't know why I like looked in that direction, like, no one's over there. Okay, continuing. These are not classics, so we have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is historical fiction that came out in 2016, I think. I could be like a year or two off on that, but it is relatively new. Historical fiction has to do with like old Hollywood and a Cuban bisexual protagonist, which I'm here for. So also heard like super great thing, like literally that is BookTube's darling, basically. That's one of BookTube's darling books. And then lastly on the short list here, we have The Diary of a Teenage Girl by Phoebe Gloeckner, which is part diary setup and then also like illustrations. That's a weird one. Dealing with, it being sort of a coming of age story. There's some sexual things involved. I'm trying to find like an okay images to show you. So there are some like comic strip kind of pages, I guess, and just like illustrations, because I think Phoebe Gloeckner is an illustrator herself. Yes, anyway, Diary of a Teenage Girl, another movie I own that I have not watched yet. Here's to hoping that I do love these books and love the adaptations, or at least find them very interesting and like talk about them a lot or something. Usually I have a pretty good idea of like things that I will love, so hopefully that ability has not left me, Am I gonna say like 50 times? So now I have the other, originally it was 5, but then I added a 6th book here as I was pulling them off the shelf in order to make this video. So the next are 6 books that I would also like to get to this year, but like I'm a little bit more loose about not getting to. Loose about? Okay. We have The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield, historical fiction that I cannot believe I haven't read yet. I almost started it last year, and then I read Fingersmith instead, which was, I mean, probably both would have been a great choice, but like Fingersmith, okay? Okay. Brooklyn by Colm Tóibín? I'm so sorry, dude. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It looks like Tóibín. Brooklyn. Another movie I have. And then another movie that I have. So originally, I just had Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro on the list. But then I was like, I own the movie The Remains of the Day, so let's add that one and just write down both. So, and I also wrote down The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This movie, this has been adapted, and then it was in, like, editing hell, I guess, for, like, a year, maybe? I'm not even, probably 2 years, because, I don't know, I feel like it was supposed to be released last year, I feel like. But I'm not 100% sure. Basically, it's been all over the place, and I'm pretty sure from a video I watched on YouTube, where else does one watch videos, it's going to be on Netflix sometime this year. So I would like to read it before the adaptation comes out, basically. And my mom read it in 2 days, so I feel like it's one of those, like, fast page turner thrillers. Heavily influenced by Hitchcock, and specifically Rear Window, I'm pretty sure. Although I do have to say, I think there's been some, like, controversy dealing with the author. I'm not 100%... I'm not sure what. I don't remember right now, but maybe I'll leave, like, some links in the description in case, like, you're one of those people who's, like, more careful with, like, what they're reading and who they're reading, and maybe you just want to know. I'll also leave links. I'll try to figure out what was happening. I swear, they, like, the adaptation for The Woman in the Window, it stars Amy Adams as the main character, and I think they did test screenings, and then it ended up getting, like, a really bad reception, so then they wanted to re-edit it, but maybe I'm confusing that with Chaos Walking? I don't know. I'll leave things in the description. So, lastly, I wrote down Blonde by Joyce Carol Oates, which I got last year. It's ginormous. It's like 900 pages, and I feel like this is one that I should sort of split up and maybe, you know, consistently read over a few months or something like that. I also know that this has been adapted. I think it was somewhere in production last year, but then, you know, things happened last year, and then things didn't happen last year. So, also think, wait, this is going on Netflix too, isn't it? Okay, well, I would like to hopefully read this year, and yeah, because it's so big, I feel like it's something that I can take my time with more and read consistently throughout a couple of months or so. It just depends on how I want to break it up. So, Blonde by Joyce Carol Oates, which is a fictional telling of Marilyn Monroe's life. But I'm sure a bunch of research went into it, considering how big it is. Yes, okay, that is everything. And yeah, great. I'm feeling like kind of rusty being in front of the camera, because that always happens. I could go like a week without filming and I'm still like feeling weird in front of the camera. How is everyone doing? What are your reading goals? Do you make reading goals? Do you make movie goals? What do you have planned? I don't really have anything to say in terms of video specifically, just because I hate when I like say something in a video and then it feels like I'm making like a promise, and then I might not end up getting to something for a while. And I just hate that, because then it makes me feel like I'm breaking a promise or like disappointing people, when again, really it's just like me putting that pressure on myself. But if you have maybe some specific video ideas that you would like to see from me, I'd love to hear it. Obviously that's just, you don't have to do that. I am definitely interested in hearing what you have planned for this year, though, in terms of reading, if you read, and if you read, and watching movies and shows and such. Yeah, as always, I'll leave like information and any clarification that I need to put in the description. Thank you for watching. I hope everyone's new year is going well, you know? So yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!